Hi, and welcome to the Power of Connection and Biz Show. I'm Kimberly Lane, executive coach, engagement and connection builder, best-selling author, and your host. Today's guest comes from my childhood hometown of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where he was born and raised. At Pittsburgh University, he graduated with a master's degree in special education and played volleyball. He then moved to Tampa, Florida, where he was a high school teacher and a volleyball coach. His expertise in volleyball coaching grew, and he became a college volleyball coach and a professor for 19 years, mostly at St. Leo University, where he is still known as the winningest volleyball coach of all time. Congratulations. He was not only a successful professor and coach, but in those 24 years, he also successfully started 6 different small businesses. 4 of them, you guessed it, all around volleyball, and the other 2 comprised of a golf cart and scooter rental shop. As a result of his success, he does small business coaching and entrepreneurial lectures, and you can find many of his vital tips in his book, Cracking the Startup Code: 5 Myths to Starting or Growing a Business. I've asked him to be a guest on the Power of Connection and Biz Show because of his newest focus, the Blueprint of Love, which is emphasizing our need in today's world and working environment to learn how to love everyone unconditionally, which then becomes the blueprint for all working environments and relationships. I am delighted to welcome our guest, Sam Cibrone. Sam, so glad to have you here.
Kimberly, thank you so much for being here, for inviting me on the show. I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, and you've got a lot going on, and maybe our listeners might want to first understand, how did you start as far as becoming an entrepreneur? How would you answer that question?
Yeah, it's interesting. So when I moved from Pittsburgh, I came down to Tampa, and I was making a whopping $23,000 a year as a high school teacher. And I decided that I didn't want to live a lifestyle at $23,000. So
nope.
I need a side hustle. Like, what's going to be my little way to earn money? And the most common thing that popped out to me right away was tutoring. I'm like, oh, I can tutor kids at night. So next thing you know, I was tutoring kids 4 nights a week. I was packed. I was driving all over the place. And then I said, you know what? Why am I going to them? Why don't I have them come to me? So I opened up a little office in Tampa. Next thing you know, I had 10 teachers working for me. And 2 years later, we had over 40 kids come in twice a week, and I was making way more money than my teaching job. So it was almost out of necessity, I guess, based on the profession I picked. I love teaching, but I didn't love 23 grand a year.
No, yeah. And necessity is always a great instigator for invention or getting off your butt and trying something new, right? So good for you. I know you've been very successful in everything that you take on. I have read Sam's book, and I would highly recommend it. It's called, again, Cracking the Startup Code: 5 Myths to Starting or Growing a Business. And I remember, if I recall, there was one chapter you really talk about accentuating your strengths and what have you done right versus I think we all, especially as entrepreneurs, look at what we were doing wrong. And that really hit me. I remember that, wow, to really always look at what we're doing right, as opposed to always focusing on the negative and enhancing what was working as opposed to what was not working. So thank you for that little tip. Tell me anything more about your book and really why you wrote it. Again, I'd highly recommend it. And it's a quick read, by the way, too.
Yeah, I wrote the book because I feel like, actually, I did a Facebook poll to find out why people aren't starting their small business, right? What's keeping people back? And 90% of all the answers had to do with some kind of fear. Fear of failure, fear of lack of knowledge of the subject of how to start a business. I don't know how to get incorporated. What are those things? And so I realized that these fears are keeping people from their dream. And so I wanted to write a book that debunked these 5 myths that kind of prevent you from starting a business or from growing your business to the next level. A lot of people have a great business, but they won't take a leap because of these fears. So I wrote the book for those people out there that just want to really go for it, but they're kind of hesitant. Right. And then they make up these myths in their minds, right? Like, my M is money. You have to have money to make money. Not necessarily, right? You have to be resourceful, but you don't really need to have that many resources. Now, you got to pick a business that doesn't require a million resources. I mean, if I want to go out and build a restaurant, that's going to cost me millions of dollars. But if I want to open up a food truck, and grow it, organically. So I mainly wrote the book for that. And for the second reason is really, I like speaking. So I thought the book would help me become a speaker because it gives me some credibility. It tells my stories of my 6 small businesses and the good and the bad, right? The positives and the negatives, and how I grew through the negatives.
No, is the book the basis for your business coaching as well for a small business? Is that where you kind of niche? Is it for entrepreneurs or small businesses? Is that kind of your coaching business?
Yeah, my target market is the beginner or smaller business from 100,000 to 2 million. I'm not looking for the the $5 to $30 million business with all these vice presidents. I want to talk to the decision maker directly, look at their P&L, help them with marketing and really I want to make impact in those people because I feel like that's generational. They can talk to their family. It becomes a family business, or they help 6 employees, and it kind of works its way down. So definitely the small business is my perfect client.
And is that why you started coaching? Just because, looking at maybe the fears you experience and hence why you wrote the book, and just feeling like that's a way to give back or to help others? Is that kind of why you started business coaching then?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I started to help others. Like, I'm very blessed that my businesses provide me income. So I wanted to focus on, I've been a college volleyball coach for 19 years and I've owned some small businesses. So I was like, well, business coaching, put it together, see if it works. And I've taken some courses on learning how to analyze software that helps you with the process too. So it's not just my opinion, it's more data driven too. But really, if I can help someone start a small business that's hesitant, or, I have a client right now who's a wedding planner and she's just bursting at the seams, but she doesn't know business, but she's great at the wedding planning. So I've been teaching her how to write a great business plan and how to grow and how to really be analyzing the P&L and how you can do things better and what's your market dominating position. And she's been fantastic. So I feel like this is her first business. This could affect generations below her. Her kids could run this business for her, or she might hire 6 people. So yeah, that's kind of why I did it, is to give back.
No, and that's what I love about you. You've got a really big heart, and you're really faith-based, and it's all about giving and loving unconditionally, which kind of brings us to our topic here, the blueprint of love, which I'm really fascinated about. I know you're kind of at the beginning stages of it, so I'd like to maybe have you back in a year to kind of see how things have evolved. But kind of, can you first share what's your definition of love? Love the t-shirt, by the way.
Thank you.
You should sell those, actually. I want one. What is your definition of love? And then kind of give us the backstory and how, you came around the developing the concept and getting into this blueprint of love. So kind of a loaded question, but.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And thanks for the t-shirt compliment. I love it too. So basically, I realized that the second part of my life, I want to really create impact even more than, like, obviously I've done it with teaching and coaching kids and things like that. But really, I view the blueprint of love as a different concept of love. I think people think of love as this agape romantic love. And I view love as an action. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing to help love other people? Love other people doesn't mean go up and, give them a hug and be all gushy with them. Love is like, there's many components, but I've tried to, and I'm still working on the definition, quite frankly, as I learn and interview people and do things. But, our 4 basic components that we're building on right now is, first, understanding other people. I think, and this is a time where we don't understand people. Acceptance is very difficult in this society. We need to start accepting people's differences. Sympathy, feeling those emotions for people. And then empathy, putting yourself in their shoes. These are just a couple of components of love because it's such a deep concept. And I really picked it because I, quite frankly, realized that, I have a big heart, but I'm not loving others as much as I should, and how I could improve too. And because loving is really serving. So if you're serving everybody, hopefully we can get that mentality of serving each other more, and that love concept will grow. And so I'm excited for this new venture. I'm doing it with a buddy, Rick from church, and we're just fired up about like going on this journey and trying to define it. And we call it the blueprint of love because we want to create a blueprint for those people to have some basic steps on how to deal with situations or how to be proactive with love. Don't be reactive, but like look for opportunities to love other people each day. Don't like, oh, I just drove up the street and
Right.
saw a homeless person. Look for the homeless person. Like be proactive. So that's kind of my definition of love.
No, wonderful. And I like that you stated love is an action. And, it's kind of like you, even when you don't, with a romantic partner, husband, wife, child, whatever, you always should do actions of love. Your love should, it's an act of love, right? Even when you're probably not feeling it, you always go from the basis of an act of love, of kindness, right? So how would you, because a lot of my concept here on the Power of Connection and Biz Show is trying to introduce these wellness or kindness or love concepts into the workplace between employees, between leaders and employees, between teams. And I think now more than ever, because of what you just mentioned, the judgment nature, the lack of inclusivity, the lack of really listening to people, not really encompassing and creating a community where everybody belongs. How would you, are there 3 items we can kind of apply to the business world around this whole concept? I know you're still thinking about it, but just what might be your initial thoughts?
Yeah, well, first of all, I love your book about leadership and building that connection, because I really do think that that's something that we need to be better at in the workplace. When in each of my 6 small businesses that I've owned, I tried to connect with my people. Like when they know that I care about them, they're going to do the best they can. They're going to feel ownership in the company. They're going to really want to work. I always told the girls when I coached college volleyball for 19 years, I said, I don't coach to win volleyball games. I coach to build relationships. In fact, one of my players called me a couple of years ago and said, hey, would you be the pastor of my wedding, or would you be the officiant of my wedding? And I'm like, of course, I'd be so honored to do such a great thing.
Wow, that is a big
That's
deal.
about relationship, right? Not about winning volleyball games, So I think the need there is huge for, number one, connecting with people. Number two, that empathy, right? Do you feel for that other person? Can you put yourself in their shoes when they're having a rough day? Or do you just do your job and you stay in your silo? Is there enough empathy out there? I don't know. I don't think so in the workplace. And I think if we had more, we'd be more productive. People want to, they want to feel connected. That's just part of life. We're built that way, and I think we're really, losing focus. And I know with this digital society and with meetings and Zoom and all the things that are going on, they're all great things. But I also think we need to make sure we do things to stay connected with people, because that's going to make the whole company better.
No, and I think about, it's kind of interesting. You mentioned that when you were coaching, it wasn't about winning games. It was about the relationships. But by focusing on the relationships, you became the winningest coach ever at the university, right? So, and I'm sure wherever you went, you had that similar record. And I firmly believe that if you kind of focus on the basics of people, motivation, caring about people only care as much as you care about them, right? They only care about what when you show you care about them. And so all those things I think are very basic, but people just skip over the relationship part, and social media is making that too easy, I feel, and we're missing the boat on really what makes joy, what creates trust, but also moves mountains, collectively. It's much more powerful, it's much more successful, and it's much more fun, right? So we're kind of approaching the end of our time together. So is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience, whether it be about business coaching, how they can get involved with the Blueprint of Love? I, of course, will have your contact information, your book information in the show notes, so they can certainly reach out to you that way. But anything else you'd like to share with our audience before we close out?
Well, the Blueprint of Love is in the very beginning stages. So I would love to come back on in a year and see where we're at. I'm excited for what God has for us in that year and how it's going to grow. So definitely thanks for the invite. And I'll take you up on that in a year. I hope we're doing
totally.
well So with that, I'm good on the blueprint. You know, the business coaching, like I said, I only do a couple clients and I do it for impact. I want to help other people. So if anyone ever wants some business coaching, I stay within my avatar, which is a very small business or someone that's just starting up. So those are the people, and you can check out my website and book a meeting if you're interested in that in any way. Because once again, if I can help other people, that's what I'm here for.
Awesome. So we'll include your website in the show notes as well. So to our wonderful listeners, if you liked our content and episode today, please check like and post a review. And also subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Power of Connection in Biz. I really want to thank our delightful guest, Sam. You've got such a big heart. You're doing such a great cause. You've been very successful, but I think it's because, again, you're focused on relationships and the love that goes around that, and the acts of love. So thank you so much for being on the show. And remember, connections change everything.